Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna switch this back to a div for now, this container. And let's just come through and add just some stuff. So with semantic UI header component, I can say, hey, I want this to be, this is a header, but I want this to be an H1. And I could do an H6, it's just gonna make it bigger if I do it in H1 and give it a text align prop center. I could grab like the segment component, just auto importing that from semantic UI. Just copy and paste this header in here. I'm going to do this one as an H2. Say like my projects. A nice little VS Code thing is selecting a section of code, and you can do like the tab, or you can do a shift tab to go back. So if you want to indent like a chunk of code, just select it and do tab or shift tab to go back. It's kind of a nice little helper. I'm just going to copy this segment. So you could use that. You could probably select this whole thing and do shift option down, or command C, command V. Context. Let's look at this. Beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to create my own container because I want to have like some awesome, some like a linear background or gradient background.
What? Oh, okay.
What?
So mine wasn't able to do that. Okay. Is it the
Do what?
have it in the middle and have the boxes around it? Oh, is it because of segment? I don't have that.
Yeah, we're going to use the segment component. So yeah,
Okay.
you'll want that.
So that's probably what I'm missing. Okay.
Yeah. So what I'm going to come down here and do is in my app component, I'm going to just make this app container right here. And what I can do, I'm going to grab this styled object, this styled import from styled components. So that's that library we just added. And then I can do stot div. So this is going to be it's a styled div. It's a styled component. And then I'm going to do 2 backticks. And now I can actually just write inside of here some CSS. So let me select this website out so you can kind of pick your own gradient. Gradients are, don't want to try to be doing this on your own or figuring them out on your own. So I just select out this gradient website. So you can come here. This is a way you can kind of, generate a gradient. This little, you can pick some colors. But don't spend too long, but you can then come down here and copy and paste this code, because this is the CSS. So I'm going to go with like, here we go. I want that purple in there. Well, there's my gradient. And yeah. Any Then I can copy and paste this CSS. and then go to back to VS Code. And just paste that in there. So this style component library, it's nice because it actually lets us write CSS. So this is just CSS, but we're still writing it in a JavaScript file. So this is like CSS in JavaScript. And now I'm creating, this is essentially just a component. And now I can actually just wrap all of this inside of there. Now if I go back to my app, yeah, there's my awesome, whatever gradient. I could come here and do like a, just to have that go all the way, do a min height and do 100 VH. VH stands for viewport height. So that's going to be 100% of whatever the viewport is, which is the window. And notice since this is CSS, I'm no longer using, commas, I'm using semicolons. So there's my awesome background. See if I use a comma. So this is the kind of thing where if we have syntax errors in here, it's not going to break your app, but it might not style it right. So which actually makes it hard. Like I wish it would just break and say, hey, you have a comma here. But it works, which can make it, I think it's kind of one of like the harder things with style components is you misspell something. It like doesn't break it, but it just doesn't apply the style right. This no longer has the gradient. Cool. And then if I were to inspect this element, see, since I did that style div, see, it's creating a div that's wrapping all of that stuff and has that weird class name. So that's kind of doing it under the hood, how it's style components is creating the class name, and then there's the CSS. So we don't have to worry about how that's working. It's just doing that for us. Cool. Let's keep going along with this.
Please slack that out. I must have made one mistake and it's not working.
Yeah.
Is it, so after the div are those backticks?
Yeah, those need to be backticks.
Okay. And then you close it with
A backtick. I don't think I really have to have that semicolon in there, but
yeah, I don't know why mine's not going.
But yeah, that's out in Slack. Okay. So if I come here, like, so some things I can do with semantic is I can like, maybe I want to make this look a little better. We're not going to get this looking great. So I can add a basic prop to my segment. Because maybe I want the border to go, like I want the color to go through, but now I lose my border on my segment. So I can come here, so I want to get rid of that. That's not what I want. Basic. It looks like I deleted the segment. So I just wanted to get rid of that basic prop. I'm going to come down here and do another styled component, transparent. This can be a style div as well. Backticks. And then this one, I'm just going to have background transparent. Now here we go. I am going to use the important here. because what I'm going to do is I'm going to, because the segment under the scenes is a div, but I'm going to say have this be as a transparent div. Now this as prop is something that's specific to semantic. You can't do that with just like a normal div. Like the normal div does not have an as prop, like the semantic components does. So I'm going to say, hey, keep this as a div, but kind of add this transparent to it and make that important. So now I still get the border, that's segment style, but now it's transparent. So I want to like change the header, like the header color. Header. Could do this as a styled .h1. So I don't just have to do divs. I can do any elements. So I'm going to do an h1. I'm going to do color. It's going to be white. And text align center. And then instead of making my, let's call this header text. So I can make this header as a header text. Or, you know, I could just use the header text component. Okay, so if I look at this, so this one is a white color, this one's not. This once again is because like if I were to inspect this, like this is still an H1, but where's my white? My white is getting, my CSS is getting overwritten by semantics somewhere because of the CSS rules. This is getting the color. See, there's my white style, but it's getting overwritten by this .ui.header because that's more specific than mine. So this is where we need to use the important. But this is fine because this important really isn't going to, like if I have another one that's just as an H1, it's not going to make that one white. It's only going to make the one that's using the header text component white. So I'm not like, even though I'm using this important here, it's not going to screw up all the other stuff. So that's why it's you know, it's more okay to use this important here.
Why are you using the important again?
Because if I don't, it won't be the white color. Because there's a lot of CSS that semantic has. Like here's the color, UI header, that's going to be black. If I don't have the important in there, then I'm going to lose out in like the CSS rules of who gets priority. Because this header has a couple, it has a couple rules saying what color it should be, and they're different. So it's got to pick one.
So by putting important, it overrides.
Yeah, important's going to like override everything, I believe. Unless you have two importance, then good luck with that one. But this isn't going to like, I have this header text, I'm just using it like, it's not overriding my H1, it's just overriding wherever I use it. So it's not going to like conflict with anything. So it's okay. So yeah, I can use the semantic header and then say as header text. I could also just use this header text component and then put my text in there. I really don't need that text align center anymore because I have that defined in this header text component. So yeah. But if I do this here, let's look at all my other headers. I'm gonna come copy this, do this here, this one as, instead of being in H2, I'll do this as a header text. And I'll do this as a header text. But now the problem here is, if I come here, now these all have the same size. So I wanted these H2s to be smaller. So let's look at that. Because what I can do now is I can actually, since we have this JavaScript, where we have CSS and JavaScript, I'm just going to make this a header text component. I'm going to not use semantics. I'm going to just use my own. There's no, these ones. Just kind of wanted to show you can do that, but since we have this header text component, we might as well just use that. I think it cleans up our code. So there we go. Now they're all white. They're all looking good, but maybe I want these ones to be smaller. I want this one to be the bigger one. Well, what I can do is so remember this backtick? That's just a string, right? We're just writing a string right here. This is a little, maybe I'll go into like tag templates later, but essentially just think of all the stuff inside of here as a string in JavaScript, but it's a backtick. So I can actually, come in here if I want to write JavaScript in here. Boom, it's the $ brackets. Now I can write JavaScript. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to come in here and say font size. Give it a font size. And now I actually want to see, let me see if there's a, let's do this first. Let's write a function right here. It's JavaScript, I can just write a function right here. So a function that takes props, do I have props.large? I'm going to do a ternary here. So if I'm given props.large, then let's have this be for rims. If not, let's have it be 2 rims. And then I'm probably going to have to make this important too. But the important is going to be part of the string. And you don't have to do this. I'm just going to like copy and paste this because what's going to happen, let's say we get a large prop. Well, then this is just going to run this function, and really what this is going to evaluate to is that. If we have a large prop, it'll turn into that. If we don't have a large prop, it'll be that. But right here, I can write a function inside my CSS. And then I can now pass this props. So for this one, I want it to have like this large prop. So that one's large, those two are not. What if I wanted another size? What if I wanted like 3 or 4 or 5 sizes? I mean, I could come in here and start doing like multiple ternaries. That's going to get messy. So what I can do is just come here and define a function. Let's call this font size. This is going to take a string, and then let's do a switch statement. Let's get some practice with the switch statement. I'm going to switch on size. So how a switch statement works is I can pass it, like it's going to match whatever this is. And then I give it cases. So if this size is the string large, some colon, then I'm going to have this return. Let's do like 4 rems. And then I can keep doing my cases. If the size is the string, let's do like medium, and I'm going to return 3 M's. And then I can have a default case. To do return, let's do 2 M's. And just to like show you in comparison, like what the switch statements is doing, I could have like an if size equal large. This is what this would look like in a if else statement. Size equal medium. Then we return 3, else return 2. You don't have to write this one out. I'm just having this for reference. Just we haven't really talked so much about the switch statement, but these things do the same thing. It's kind of a different way to say it or write it. I think the switch statements are generally cleaner if you have like a lot of else ifs. So that's kind of, it's not like a hard rule, but it's like, you know, if you have like a couple else ifs, then use the switch statement. If it's an if else, probably use an if else. I'll leave that up to you. Let's comment that out. So now I have this font size function that takes a size. So what I can do here is I can still write this function right here, but I'm just going to call my function right here. Pass it props dot size. Well, now I'm expecting if these components to have a size prop on here. So I need to now come in here and say like size equals large. And then for this one, I could do size equals MED. And then let's not give this one a size because that should just hit the default. And that's not it. I should do rem. So I should have 3 headers now with 3 different sizes. That one does not look like it got it. Size equals large.
You do have rems, rem, and then rems. Is 3 supposed to have rem with an S on the end of it?
Oh, I think it is rem.
Or just,
I forget if it's, okay, yeah, it's rem. And there we go. So there we have our large, medium, and then our default one. So yeah, I could come in here and pretty easily add, more sizes if I wanted to. So this is nice because now we can style our components. We can pass it like these style props. And things like the color will remain the same, the text align center. So we can have like a lot of the things in the header be the same, but then maybe change specific things here and there. Now, something we might want to do is instead of having all of these components like in our app file, well, these should probably be in their own like files. So I could come into my source, make a new folder. Let's call this components. Example, let's just move the header text. We don't need to do all of them, but I come now have like a header text component. And instead of having this in my app, I come grab this, copy command exit, and command V it here. I just need to import style from style components. And then let's export default this.
Do we have to import React in this one or no?
I do not think we do. Honestly, I think with you technically don't have to import React. I don't know if VS Code's doing some magic or the Create React app is doing something for us, but you technically don't have to do it, but something's doing something behind the scenes to make it work. So with this, now that I have header text, then I would want to automatically import that. So here's how I like to do this. Instead of writing it up here, I like to come to the component and just like delete a couple of the letters and then start typing it out. And then find it in VS Code and then tab and auto import it. Font size is not defined. Oh, so I have this function, this font size function that needs to be a part of this. It's that font size I'm using right here. So that needs to be inside of here. Save that, and there we go. And then I'll also just for reference, just for the notes, throw this inside of here. So this is to do using an if else statement. If else, else if else statement. And this is like the same thing with a switch statement. Are there any questions on like this syntax right here, like how I'm using interpolation? And remember with interpolation, I can just write JavaScript now. So like this is a string, and now I can, with interpolation, just write some JavaScript. I'm just throwing a function right here. And this is also partly style components, like style components is going to know like how to get the props from that component. Does this have to be called props? Let's try it out. This is the best way to figure out. Let's just try it out. It does not. This is just a function definition right here. So I could actually probably just done it like this x, switch x dot size. No, wait, let's see if this would work. Yeah. Says, what is x in this case? What would be a better name for x right here? This is really what I should call that is props.
So anything you throw in there that doesn't match anything else in this document will just be seen as props.
Sorry, well, yes, anything I throw in, yeah, right here.
You can call it anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as it's not recognizing anything else on the page, you know, as long as it doesn't say like header text or something.
Yeah, it's
It
like,
would be seen as props.
I guess because with style components, if I pass this if it's going to be calling a function in here, and it's going to like style components will pass the function props. So yeah, what I call it doesn't matter, but style components is going to give me props. So I don't know what in the documentation of semantic, they write it like this because maybe that's a little more clear. But props dot size. I could also destructure size from my props and just pass it. This is more like, this is largely like just ES6 and JavaScript functions, like these little shortcuts. So yeah, 3 different ways to write it, but it's more like the understanding is I need to like throw a function here, or I need to define a function who's going to be given props. So I just need to be aware of what props are going to be given to me. So I know I'm kind of expecting a size prop. So then I can call this font size method, get that size prop, and return the appropriate value. But I'm going to stick with the documentation on style components. Because I think when you're learning this, I think this is a little more clear what's happening. Cool. Let's go ahead. Let's
Sorry, can you go back to the way that was just before that? I just want to document all 3.
yeah, so that's a size. So what we're just doing, this is just destructuring because I'm expecting props to be an object and I'm expecting it to have the key size. So I can just destructure it here. And then I no longer have this props object, I have this size key. Does this have to be name size? This one does have to be name size.
Yeah, because that's what you called it in the app.js, right?
This, yeah, what I should say is this actually does have to match what it's called right here. So those names do have to be the exact same, or that will not work. There's some JavaScript. Just like throw this. Down here for reference. Cool. Yeah, I think like I've said this when we started talking about JavaScript, like I said, I think one of the hardest things about learning JavaScript is the syntax. And because there's kind of all these different ways to do the same thing. And you kind of do need to know them because JavaScript's a little unlike Rails, where Rails is like, here's how you do stuff. With JavaScript, you know, different coders have different styles. So you'll see you'll kind of see the different flavors of it. There's not like a wrong or right way to do it. Okay, so for the next thing, let's go ahead and we're going to actually add Axios and do a call up to GitHub. So I think I'm going to do a commit first though, because we've done quite a bit. So I'm just going to commit that. Look at my header text, commit that. Let's do header demo. And I'm going to do a yarn add Axios. Cool. So now I have Axios in my app. That's like, isn't that so cool? You just like go into your terminal and just like add this package. It's like the Matrix where you like wants to like learn how to fly helicopters. You just have to like go type it in. Boom. Now we have Axios. Sweet. So then I can go to my app.js. Oh wait, I'm in the wrong file. Do you want to do this as a class component or should we stick with the functional component? Any preference?
Functional, I think, for me.
Functional, okay, cool. I'm fine with that. So let's just import Axios from Axios. Because we're going to do a on mount. We're going to do an Axios call to get some GitHub data. So on mount, we want to do a get request. So then I'm going to also need to import use state. From React. Oh wait, the use state, and we also going to need use effect. So in the notes, there will be in Neo, there'll be a class example. So you can kind of, if you're interested, you can look at the example in Neo as a class component. So let's do our use effect. So our use effect is a function that takes a function as its first argument and this dependency array as the second argument. And actually in the use effect, in the function, this can return a function to be called on unmount. I think that can be, understanding this can be like a good example of how functions are passed and returned from functions in JavaScript. So let's just write that one more time. I have a use effect. So this is just a function whose first argument is a function. And this function can do stuff, and then it can return a function. And then the second argument is an array. We're not going to do anything with this return function. I just wanted to get that practice. So I could just comment that out because we're not really using that. So this function would be called on mount. I think I also have like a use effect, shorthand that like types this out for me. See that? There's the function. Here's what to do when this mounts. Here's the cleanup function. And there's the dependency array. Cool. So on mount, we want to get data. Or I could call this, we're actually going to get like, let's call this get repo, get repos. Okay. Make that async. Do our try catch. And I'm going to slack out this Axios call. Because we can go ahead and do some stuff with GitHub. So let's let res, and then there's, you need to type that await, but then there's the Axios call. So axios.get https github.com users, then your GitHub username, you're going to need to change that. And then repos sorted created. Ooh. And then let's just console.log response. So where do I, sorry, users, then you do your username. I'm going to do mine, or you could do like Facebook to grab all the repos. So I'll go ahead and use my handle. So I just saw today I had like 250 repos, which is ridiculous. So it just kind of returns them in sorted order by like when they were created, but here's my data. If I do that get request, boom. I'm getting an array of 30 repos and it has all of this crap on it. Has owner information. So yeah, that's one of my repos. So that's some pretty, there's like, I don't know, 100 attributes on that. So let's go ahead and create some state for this. So we have some state. to hold this. So I'm going to do const repos and set repos to just an empty array, but I'll use my use state hook. So using a third-party library, this is where you kind of like either need to look at their documentation or, you know, go into your console and see how do I actually get my data. So so the question is, from this response, where is that array of repos? Is it res.data? Is it res.repos, res.data.data? Any guesses? Here's the log of the response.
Yeah, it should just be res.data on this one, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, we can go ahead, check that out. Let's console.log res.data. Here we go. Res.data, there it is. It's always the way you can, if you're unsure, just console.log it, and there it is. So I can set my repos to res.data. Another way I could check that is if I'm setting my repos to res.data, then I can go into my component, find my app. There's my state. There's one of my objects. Cool. Yeah, so right here we have my projects. So for here, let's go ahead and do like a, so kind of, I know there's an example in, well, let's just follow the example in Neo. So I'm going to do a grid from Semantic UI React. Then inside of here, I'm going to do a grid row. Grid dot row. I want to use the grid dot row. And then here I can do like a map function. Let's do this. I'm going to call this render repos. Render repos. Let's go ahead and do our repos. So before I forget, I'm going to return this, return repos.map. Just call this R for repo. Then we can return. Let's just stick with a card for now. And do some card content. Card.content. Let's do a card.header. So if I'm thinking about what I want to throw inside of here, I need to come look at like my state. Maybe see what I have like. Let's do full name because that's the name of my repo. So I think that's what I want to display. So does this make sense that this is when I'm doing the map, I have that R object. This is what R is. So I have r dot full name. I could have like r dot owner dot login. That would be me. So right here, I can go ahead and do r dot full name underscore name. See if I'm grabbing that. There we go. If I don't want the full name, maybe I just want the name. Doesn't really need to save my GitHub handle on all of them. There we go. There's like my last 30 repos. Cool. So let's keep going with this. Let's go ahead and do like card meta. And do like we have like a description on here that describes the repo. Save that. Let's save that r dot description. Oh, I guess most of mine don't. Since I have all these like repos from cohorts, I don't throw descriptions on them. So I could go ahead and like grab one like React or Facebook. So I think that would have all like the React stuff. There we go. Because then that gives us some like different descriptions. So we might want to make that look a little neater. Something I can do on in here is like, since I'm doing a grid row, I can do a grid column here. Wrap this all in a grid column. And width equals 4. You can also give this a key so I don't make React mad with that unique ID thing. Let's do r.id. Let me select this out where we're at right now. You know, this semantic stuff can be hard to follow without like the closing tags and all that stuff. Cool. So there we go. I mean, considering we haven't done any of like the grid stuff, like this looks decent. I mean, it's not awesome, but it doesn't look so bad right now. We have a little grid going with like four columns. So when we get back, let's actually look at the grid really quick. So if you want to like figure out how to do things with semantic, once again, you're going to heavily rely on the documentation. One thing I might want to have happen with this is like, as I, shrink this, like maybe I want this to be a little responsive. So I'm not going to want to have like a 4x4, like 4 columns if it's this small. So then I could go to the grid and be like, see if I can find an example where they're actually, maybe doing that. Making it responsive. These are all just shrinking. Where are they doing that? That's not very useful. Let's look at their props. Grid. I'll look at this during the break and then I'll figure it out. But yeah, because I'm going to need to look at, like, I don't have this memorized. So I'll like come here, look at how they do it, and then apply that. So let's take a break. I'm going to push this up to GitHub. As we're on break, I'll figure out how to make this responsive. Repos. So are there any questions or anything? I'm going to push this up to GitHub if you need some of the code, or I can Slack it out. I've already Slacked this out, so I think that's all we've really done is the app.js from here. So cool. Let's just come back at, let's take a little quicker break. Let's do 11:50.
Deal.
Perfect.
Would you Slack out the header text one too?
Yeah. Okay. Let's go ahead and get started. So yeah, I made this kind of responsive really quick. So like if you make it big, once it gets to like tablet size, it's like we get 2 columns, and then once it gets big enough, then we get 4. And if it's really small, then we just have 1. So this is like a decent level of responsiveness. And how I essentially did that was I just looked through the grid section. You know, there's this responsive variance. So there's things like stackable, which shrinks its grid can have its columns stack on top of each other, reaching that multiple breakpoints, or mobile breakpoints. So this is going to break specifically on a mobile size. I wanted it to go be a little more detailed than that, so I did this responsive width, which I can come in here and say, hey, if it's mobile, use this 16. So what's this 16? So this grid system is kind of most of these frameworks have like what's called a grid system, and with Semantic they have it's a total of 16 grids. So if I'm saying, hey, I'm mobile, to have this grid column take up 16, that's saying take up the full width. For tablet, I'm saying have it take up 8 of these columns, which would be half of it. And then for the computer, have them take up 4 of those columns, which would be a quarter of it. Let's just see, like if I did, so what I did here is I did, yeah, for mobile, I want 16, for tablet, I want 8, for computer, I want 4. So what's going on there? So if I have a wide screen, each card's going to take up 4 of those columns. Once I get to a tablet, then they take up 8. And then once I get down to a mobile, then they take up all 16. So if I change this to like a 1 and go to a computer size, well, now there's the grid, there's the 16, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever, 16. And yeah, that's as small as I can get. Usually it's a 12 grid system, because 12 gives you can do it by half. So you can do like half size, you can do it a quarter size, or you can do it a third size. I'm not sure why they're doing 16, because what's a third of 16? If I wanted to have on tablet, have it be 3 rows.
It's like 5.3 is a third of 16.
Oh yeah, that's right, 5.33 repeating. Let's try that. I don't know if it likes that. Yeah, so I have to do 5, which isn't going to be exact. For this way, I mean, I could do it another way, but so let's switch that back to 8. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple though to do that. And then one thing I had to do for the card is I had to put this fluid on it, and that's going to make the card grow. If I don't have the fluid on the card, it goes to the grids, but then they don't take up the full width of that grid element, because cards will just default to this size. So then that doesn't look as good. So if I add the fluid prop, that just says, hey, card, grow, fill your container if you can. And once again, I didn't have that memorized. That was just me looking at the docs here, kind of looking at the examples, and then I kind of get the card to fill. So I had to go to the card component there's this props things here that can help sometimes to look at all your props. And then like, right, for example, here's the fluid one. Card can be formatted to take up the width of its container. So when working with semantic, it's not like you have to become a master of semantic. You have to become a master of reading documentation. Because I think a lot, I don't know, I don't really like semantic, to be honest. I would, my go-to is ant design. This is my component library. Does anyone speak Chinese here? I think Will does. Have to get Will to translate some of this. But they have a lot, most of their components are like, they have good English documentation, but this is a really popular, like there's 74,000 stars on this one. I think it's more popular than semantic. If you're looking at the star rating. Let's see who's more popular. Yeah, it's like got a lot more stars. I don't know how like valid that is, but if you have a framework that has 74,000 stars or a repo, that's pretty popular. But once you learn something like semantic and you learn how to read the documentation, going over to something like ant design, you won't have a problem with it, even though it's completely different. It's kind of like the same idea. Cool. So there's a couple things we want to fix in here though. Like there's some text that's being cut off or it's like overflowing. I don't know how good it looks that these are like different heights. So let's go make some changes to this and kind of style this a little better. So what I want to do is I kind of want to create, I want to use semantics card. I wonder how I'm going to do this actually with this fluid prop. Okay, let's see if we can do this. I'm gonna have to Google that. I might have to get rid of this fluid prop now. Because what I want to do is I want to do my own custom styling on this card with the styled component. So I'm going to come here. I'm just going to do it in this file. I'm going to call this styled card. I'm going to equal this to styled. And then I'm actually going to throw in this semantic card right here. So instead of doing like style.div, I can actually just call this function and then pass it like that semantic component. And let's just give this a height of 200 pixels. I don't know if I pass the prop here, if that's going to work. Let's see if that does work. Hopefully it does. So now I'm using instead of semantics card, I'm using my style card, which is essentially just their card, but I give it a specific height. And cool, that fluid prop did pass down. So I'm able to use all of that semantic stuff, but now I'm coming in and adding my own custom styles. And that's nice because when we're using these third-party component libraries, you'll often find you want to like do custom, you want to customize how it looks. So we can still take all their styles, but then kind of start adding our own. Let's see, we also have some overflowing text. That would be nice to get rid of. So let's see if we can do that. So what I'm going to come in here and do, I'm going to do some CSS that would get rid of that. So I'm going to say white space, none, overflow, hidden. So it's just gonna, if it overflows, hide it. And then I can do this text overflow. So if it does overflow, if my text does overflow, use this ellipses, which is just the dot, dot, dot. Well, that's actually for my, let's see what that looks like. So refresh that. So I'm gonna go back to, I kind of wanted to show this, that actually, let's come back to the full name. Any of these popping off? Let's try doing this, because actually in the notes, this is actually on the header. So I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna say const truncated. I'm gonna make another style component. Equals a styled div. So I just deleted that. I'm gonna paste that inside of here. Except I got rid of it. What I want to paste inside of here is this stuff. And I'm going to throw my header inside of this. So what's going on here is that I'm going to use the full name for the repo name. Now, because I don't want it to wrap. So that's what the white space no wrap is. If I get rid of that, then it wraps. But let's say I don't want it to wrap. I just want it to take up one line. I'm going to say no wrap. And then if it overflows, we're going to hide it. And then we're going to use the dot, dot, dot. So then if it overflows, then we just get that. And let's maybe add that on. See if what happens if we just add this on our styled card. The overflow hidden and text overflow ellipsis. I don't know why this is looking so crappy. I think I've done something wrong with my header. Maybe it's because I'm throwing maybe I want that meta into content. Okay. There we go. This card looks not right. Does not look. So something I did is I moved the card header in its own section, and then the card content, that's where I'm throwing the meta. That just does not look right. I'm gonna go look at one of their cards. I hate how they have like so many different ways to do this. Let's try this one. All right, I'm gonna take one of these cards or this stuff inside of here. I'm gonna select this out. 'Cause this is just bugging me. Okay. And come in here. Let's see what this looks like. So one way is when working with semantic is just to kind of get it working with their demo. So that's a little better because now I have a nice little header. I have a nice little code description and then this description. So now that that's working, now what I do is come in and get my stuff working. So the r dot full name here. Let's do the r dot description here. And then, I don't know, I maybe I could find something to throw here. That would be pretty easy since there's a lot of data on here. I could just go inspect here and just choose something in my state. Maybe like watchers. Where's our stars? Let's do open issues. Let's say something like this, issues. Cool. Let me slack this out, this render repo function, since I switched that up quite a bit. Oh, one other thing though, I do need, I want to wrap my header in this truncated component that I just created. So now if it overflows, I get the dot, dot, dot. Sweet. So let's talk about some other things now, more related to semantic, or sorry, to style components. Let's talk about animations, and because animations are something that, you like I said, you can't really do without a third-party library in React with but style components makes this easy. So let's go ahead and there's a stargazer count. So what I'm going to do on my card in the meta section, let's also throw this here. Let's see what this is going to look like. We'll have our issues. And then I'm also going to do I'm going to see as the r dot stargazers. Stargazers count. Is that greater than 0? If it is greater than 0, I want to render a star. So I can do like this ampersand. So this is just a short circuit evaluation. If this is true, go ahead and render this icon component from semantic UI. I'm going to say name equals star. So if this expression evaluates to true, then it's going to render it. If it evaluates to false, it just stops because it's like false and, well, I know that's going to be false. So code just stops and it won't render it. So let's look at that. We're on Facebook, so looks like they all have stars. If I went to mine, I'm sure my last 30 repos do not have stars just since they're zero issues, 0 stars. So I'll go ahead and use React for Facebook. So they have issues and they have stars. Cool. So I want to make this star spin. Let's do a little animation. So has anyone seen or done any CSS animations? Just kind of look at how they work. Let's not go here, that's a little too complicated. There's like a simple example. So what you do with CSS animations is you have this like at keyframes example where you use this keyframes thing to do like the from and to, and then like for example, this one's going to go start from a red background to a yellow background. And then in the div where they're going to apply this, see there's the name keyframes example. There's the example right there. So it's saying go from red to yellow. It's going to take 4 seconds. And it's starting off as red. So what we should see this background as being red and take 4 seconds to go to yellow if I try this out. There we go. And that just kind of repeats. So we can do things like percentages. So this would take, if this takes 4 seconds, this is going to take 1 second to go to yellow, 1 second to go to blue, 1 second to go to green. That's what those percentages are. It's a percentage of the time. And yeah, you can do multiple things. Like this one's going to go, it's going to change color and it's also going to move over 4 seconds. But this is a little square. So how we're going to do this in React is I'm going to come down here and create a star, like just a style component. Let's call it star. This is going to be a styled.div. But then I'm also going to want to grab from styled. I want to grab that keyframes thing that we saw in CSS. So I can just import that from style components. And then here I can do my const, or I can do that keyframes. And that's where I can put that CSS. Keyframes. Or I need to define this as a name const. Let's just call this X for now. That's going to be keyframes. And then that's where I can throw in my animation. So like if I was trying to do this one, or let's do something that's a little more simple. That was just the color. I could take this, the from and to, pop that inside of here. And then for my star div, like I could take, this is the stuff right here. I'm going to change this. I'm just kind of showing you because this is the animation to go from red to yellow. So we're going from background color red to background color yellow. We'll start out red. We give it the name. Actually, this name I need to call X. That needs to match this, but we're in JavaScript. So I actually need to say, interpolate that. You can say X and then give it the duration. So now I have this star component. let's try wrapping our icon. Let's see if this works in our star component. See if that translates down to our star. Let's refresh. So I can see that red animation going to yellow. It just does it once and then it goes back to red and then it stops. So we can do more than just background color. What we're going to do with this, because we want this to actually, I'm going to call this rotate 360. I want the star to spin around. So to do that, I can use this transform attribute. I can say, hey, rotate. I'm going to start this off at 0 degrees. Transform, I need to spell that right. And then I'm going to go to, so for this one, I'm going to just go to 360. That's going to rotate it. So it's going to start at 0 degrees and then rotate to 360 degrees. But we're going to animate that. So here's my rotate 360. Let's do for this, let's just do color, not background color, because I don't want that. My whole background, I just want the star to be colored yellow. Rotate 360. I can actually throw in, I don't need the, I can, a lot of CSS attributes, you can like, they have like the shorthands. So I can tell it for how long. I can then add this other item, linear. This just means be consistent, like consistently, a consistent animation from my from to my to. Some you can have other ones that like it starts out slow and then it goes fast and then it slows down. This one just says have a constant rate. And then I can also say infinite. So don't, once you get done, just keep doing it. And if I refresh that, did I spell something wrong? Infinite.
Do you just define it as animation if you're doing the shorthand?
Oh
So
yeah, that's it. I spelled infinite right though. I'm just like staring at that. It doesn't look like a word. All right. There's my awesome animation. Let's see. Probably don't want that. Let's see if I make this a inline block. Display. Inline block. See, this is semicolon. Dang it, what's going on here? Style div inline block. I want to make that bigger. That's kind of hard to see. Font size. Let's see if this makes it bigger. 30 pixels. Oh, it is rotating. Just can't see it. I think I need to make it maybe bigger on my icon. Is there a large? That yellow is just kind of hard to see too. But that is rotating. Let's make this red so we can see it. Yay, there's my spinning stars. So now this star component actually spins stuff. So could I do something weird like wrap this whole thing in a star component. I don't know what this is going to do. Let's just try it. Yeah. That's pretty cool, huh? To make this like really crazy, do like 1 second. So yeah, animations are fun to play with, but they're kind of horrible. People do stuff like this. So you want to be very subtle with your animations. Let's do 10 seconds. Cool. So I'm going to get rid of that star on my container, because on my cards, that's ridiculous. But the nice thing about style components, and with something like animations, it's like animations are largely probably going to like Google how to do something, and then you'll get the CSS, and then you might have to tweak some stuff. Like I did not come up with this animation on my own. It's like, oh, how did, like I Googled like how'd you rotate something? And then it's like, oh yeah, you use the transform, make it inline block so it doesn't go the whole width of the div it's in, that kind of thing. Any questions on that? So yeah, it makes it easy because it makes it easy just to like copy and paste stuff. And then yeah, I think we could probably, let's see if we can like change our color. We start off at red. I don't know, go to blue. See if that works. I have no idea if this is going to work, but oh. And once again, if stuff doesn't work, it's probably like small syntax errors. Like here, I'm forgetting a semicolon. There we go. And it's changing. I don't know if we can change the X. Let's see if that works. I'm gonna make this go faster. Nope, that looks like it's stuck there. Okay, but anyway, that's what you can do. Animations are fun. Use them sparingly. Don't go too crazy with them. Having a spinny star that's changing colors is probably not the best user experience. Cool. What else do we need to do? I'm going to skip over theming. Talk about that later. Let's talk about like a link. To do, I'm just going to do this all in here. So at the end, I can just slack this all out. Let's say we want to create a link. So I could do like a style.a tag. And then, you know, let's just add some style, float, right, padding. Let's do 10 pixels, 30 pixels, border radius. 10 pixels. It's just this, I'm gonna skip over the theming example. So let's just give this like a white color for the color and then background. And sorry, this is not, gotta do the CSS way. So background, we can just do that as one word. Background color. Let's do blue. So now I have this button link, but it's a styled A tag. So if I wanted to come in here and use that, like in my card, or should I do this? Let's come down here and do like a card extra. And so then I'm going to use this button link component. Now this button link component is an A tag, so I can use, like, I want that href. We can do r.html URL. Does anyone know what target equals blank? Does anyone know what this does?
Open a new page.
Yeah, that opens it up in a new window instead of, if you click on a link, sometimes it just opens it up where you're at. But if you do blank, that's going to open it up in, yeah, a new tab. So something like view, button link. But yeah, what I want to show here, since my button link is an A tag, I can do this href. So let's look there. Looks like this is crashing maybe. Okay. Let's see, what did I do here? That's weird. I'm going to stop my server, restart it. I don't know why it's not giving me an error or not rendering anything. Error occurred. Okay, there's my error. Cool. So what I'm going to do, if I don't know what's going on. So what I like to do if I encounter an error like this is just undo what I've done. Maybe this extra is not a thing. I'm just going to comment this out and just get it working.
I think for the extra, you just put it like as a small word in card content, like all lowercase after card content. You just type extra, because I did that on the hackathon.
So I do a card content and then extra.
Yeah,
Okay,
I believe so.
let's try that. Okay. I don't think my color's coming through. So there's my link. If I click on it, that will take me to the repo. So that link is working. I'm not sure what's going on with my color. Card link color is white. Why are you not white?
Does that need to be important for some reason?
Oh, that probably does need to be important. That is exactly what it is. Yeah, that needs to be important. Cool. So there's my view button. Something else I might want to do is like a hover effect, because that's a common thing that we haven't really seen. So let's go ahead and try to do that. So what I can do here is in my style component, I can do an ampersand and then I can do my like pseudo selector. So I can do a hover. And like this can be like a background pink. And since this is a link tab, there's a specific one with links. There's like the visited. Let's do orange. Visited. I can't, dude, words are looking weird today. So now if I hover over this button link, I should get that pink background. There it is. Let's click on it. And now since I visited it, it should be orange. Let me see if there's anything else. I think that is largely the demo. The big things here are like, yeah, doing the animations, those pseudo selectors, those are really nice because those allow you to do those custom styling. Oh, let's do, I'm gonna have to Google this because I don't have it off the top of my head. Another thing you're gonna wanna do, or that's really nice to do is, I'm already forgetting the word, is the responsiveness. So we've done responsiveness with semantic, but have any of you done, it's media queries? Have you done, do you know what media queries are? Okay. So let's say I want to do some, I need to do some like custom styling based on the size. And I'm not going to use semantics grid system. Like I want to do my own. Like once it gets to like 800 pixels, I want to like do something specific. I'm gonna Google this because there's a good, well, let's look at just media queries in CSS. So let's just look at this example. So we have a media only screen and max width 600. I can like never like, they write it so damn confusing. I never know if it like applies when it's smaller than 600 or greater than 600. But so if it's only, so I think this is going to be, if it's less than 600 pixels, we're going to have a light blue background. So let's try it. So yeah, right now we have, if we look at the CSS, I guess it's green by default. But if I, because like right here, it's showing the size 732. So once we get below 600, this should go to light blue. And there it is. So I can have different styles based on the size of the screen. So that's what a media query is. That's something very common, very, very common when you're doing responsive websites. It's also something you can't do with inline styling. So let's show how we do that with styled components. And I'm going to Google this because there's one good article on this that like I like to reference. So style components, media queries. Is it this one? I kind of like how I'm going to select this out, but we'll go through it. I think this is like a good little abstraction on how to do this. Okay. So let's first look at just a basic example of how to do it. I'm just going to copy this example. And, so here we create a component. It's a card wrapper. Let's also just throw in a background color so we can see this happening. Background red and green. But yeah, what you're really going to want to be doing with like the media queries is maybe like changing the size of things or the flex direction. But let's just see this in action. So I'm going to take this card wrapper, just throw it right here. Yeah, don't just throw in a div here. Yo. Actually, let's make another style component. It's right here. Const card. And my card, so we don't duplicate card. There's a style div. Let's just give this a default like height. No, let's just leave it like this for now and do a background. Let's just leave it like this. My card. Just gonna copy and paste a couple of those. So we have the card wrapper where it has a background color. Actually, I do want to do, let's do some margin just so we can make sure we can see the background. Margin, 20 pixels. So we have all these my cards in this card wrapper, which has this media query right here. I need that semicolon. So really what we should see is when this is, I think once it's smaller than 768, it should be green. If it's bigger, it should be red. Let's go ahead and try that out. Yo. Okay, it's neither. Let's try background color. Oh, this does not need to be in quotes. Okay, so there's red. And then also when we go to green, it also switches the direction of the flex box. So it's columns when it's smaller, because that's what you might want when it's a small screen, you want it to be in columns. When you have enough the width, then you want it to be in rows. So yeah, we could like maybe do like a width, like 200 pixels, I don't know. There we go. Cool. So that's just like a basic example of how you do that. But something that's like, just going into this a little and what this article goes into is we can kind of start defining like some, instead of just hard coding this 768 right here, because like, what the hell is that 768? What does that mean? It's a little confusing. We can go store these values in variables. So we could create like this size object, which just has key value pairs of like sizes of devices. So mobile small, mobile medium, mobile large, tablet, laptop, laptop L, and desktop. So those are going to be a lot more readable. And you can make these kind of standards. So then I can go ahead, copy this. Let's create a file. I don't know, call this like query. I don't really know what to call this. .js. Spelled that way wrong. There's my size. Then with that, I can kind of use those sizes and create. Because I mean, these things are so confusing to read, like at media max width 768. Go in and then use those sizes to create like a device object. And now my device can now have these queries within it.
Is that what semantics doing for us when we put mobile, tablet, and computer on our grid column?
I'm not sure because I don't know how they're handling the CSS. What semantics doing is they're going to be putting class names on your divs like calls for. Behind the scenes, they might be using percentage stuff. I don't know exactly what they're doing, but for sure, semantic UI has media queries going on. It's just it's under the hood, so I could not say what's going on. But cool. But now, like, if we have this, I guess they named it device, but now we can do our media queries in a better way. So I can use this device thing that I'm using in my app.js. I could say, import. Let's see if I just start typing, if we'll get it. So I can import that device object. And then instead of saying this max width 768, oh, there's using max width here. This is going to be reversed now because they had min width. But I can come in here and interpolate my query dot, or no, it's my device. It's called what was it called? Device. And then I can grab the size. Device dot, I don't know, mobile medium, or like a laptop. And so now if it's the laptop size, it should be green. Cannot read property laptop of undefined. It's right there. Oh, I need to probably save my query. So I'm exporting that device. Here's the laptop. I feel like they might mix that up. I might need to switch those to max. Let's check this out. Yeah, I feel like these should be max width. So you can option click on all of these. So now if it's a laptop, it's green. If it's bigger, then it's my red. But that's a lot readable because it's like, oh, this is my laptop style. Let's do at media dot, whatever, see, device dot mobile large. Let's do purple. Just want to see if I got these right. So there's green. If it goes small, does it go to purple? There's purple. So, and this is something I'm going to get more into this later because we're actually probably want to throw a lot of our style crap, especially things like colors. We're going to want to throw these into variables and then reuse them. So by throwing these into variables, first of all, what this does, especially for the queries, is this makes this a lot more readable. So now I'm like, oh, this is laptop styles. This is mobile large styles. Instead of me saying, max width 425 pixels. And then I have all my sizes right here. So I'm going to reuse, if I want to do anything with like a mobile large size, I'm always going to use this number, this variable right here. So if for some reason I want to change that, I just need to change that right here. You could also imagine we have like a const, like primary color. And let's say that is like still, I don't know, or whatever. Let's just do red. There's my red. But I have this in a variable that I can export. So then when I go style stuff, instead of saying red, I'm going to say primary color. Because maybe I reuse this like for my background color on my, like this is my color I use a lot in my app. So now my buttons are red. What else did I make that red? Yeah, and here I made this red if it's big. So there it's all red. And then if like, 2 months people say, hey, this red is awful. Well, if I'm storing this in a variable, I just need to change this to like one color and then, or one place. And now my primary color is green. I changed that in one spot, but now wherever I'm using that variable, it's going to change. Does anyone know what color this is?
Blue.
Yeah, it's blue. This is your red pixels, your green pixels, and your blue pixels. What color is FFFF?
It's black, isn't it?
I can never remember if it's white or black. I think it's white.
Oh, okay.
So this is like, if you were to look at your pixels on your, if you look at like a white, if it's a white background, if you're like to zoom in, you have all red, all blue, and all green. Somehow all red, all blue, and all green makes white. It's very confusing. But yeah, if you do 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, that's like no red, no black, no green, so that's black. If you do like 7, 7, 7, that's going to be like a light red or like a dark red because it's not fully bright. Anyway, here's some nerdy talk. Cool. Any questions on this? That really does get you like with styling and with style components, like the media queries, the animations, the hover effects, working with like a third-party library. I know it's like a lot, but that's like a pretty good overview of what you can do with styled components. So it is a good way. It's a really nice way to do styling because you kind of get like the best of both worlds. You get like CSS, you get React, you get JavaScript. So it's nice. Cool. I will push this up to GitHub. Do you want me just to Slack out this app.js? That's where like most of these components are. So I'll Slack that out. I'll push the rest of this up to GitHub. And also, so something with styled components. This is just going to get more and more like this. Rely on their documentation. They have pretty good documentation if you're like, I would say if you're looking at how to do stuff with styled components, don't go to the Neo notes. Go to the styled components page. Same thing with like semantic. If you're trying to figure out how to do something with semantic UI, don't go to the Neo notes, go to semantics webpage. Because they're going to have a lot more info, a lot more examples, a lot more documentation. Lots of stuff here. A lot more than we could go into in one day. I mean, this is crazy. There's like just pages and pages of documentation here. And this one, I think this is a pretty popular library too. 34,000 stars. Yeah, that's a pretty popular one. Cool. Well, I'm going to shut up. You can all go to lunch. Any questions or anything? Cool. Do you want me to go over the homework before lunch? Okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Let's look at the homework. Okay, so you're going to add style components to your project yesterday. You can customize the semantic components using style components, create your own style components, add an animation effect, add that hover pseudo selector. Oh, I didn't do this one, so we'll talk about this later. You can do this as a bonus. I just kind of just barely showed you this, so I'm going to throw that in as a bonus. Have your colors in a separate file and then reuse those. And then I'm also going to do as a bonus. Actually, I'm going to add this one as a requirement. Media queries. Do a media query. I cannot spell this word today. Query. And yeah, when it comes to styling, there's so much you could do here. Like just the bonus of like trying to make this look really nice and consistent and responsive. You could spend weeks on this homework. So let me give this out. Any questions on that? I'm not going to be here I'm going to have us meet back at 2. I don't think I'm going to be here because I'm meeting up with the new TA. So I think he'll be starting tomorrow. So I just have a meeting with him at 2. Any questions? We'll get this out too. Have fun with styling. Hopefully styling for me was always like a break from the code. It's like a little more, you get that artsy side, make things look nice. It can be a good, nice little stress relief from all the logic stuff. So cool. That is it for me. So just meet back at the TA channel at 2 o'clock. Awesome. Have a good lunch.
Thank you. Have a good lunch, everybody.
Sounds good. See ya.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.